It's a pleasure to have you on this webinar. It's 11:01, and it's a pleasure to have those who have joined as of now. Today, at Meristem Trustees, we'll be discussing a very crucial topic, which is called the financial planning, with major focus on conversations you don't want to have. I'm sure quite a number of people will be worried to say, what kind of conversations are we bringing into this webinar today? And I can tell you they are interesting conversations and they are actually playing in your heads, So I've been joined by two seasoned professionals in trusteeship and wealth management to have further discussions into this very crucial topic. First guest to be introduced is Damilola Hassan, the Managing Director of Meristem Trustees Limited, a seasoned professional with about 17 years experience, ranging from investment advisory, wealth management, estate planning, and she is an authorized dealing clerk of the Nigerian Exchange Limited, a fellow of Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Nigerians, and vice president of the Association of Corporate and Individual Investment Advisor. Come on, don't we think this is a special woman we have on the call? With her education experience ranging from the Lagos Business School, Pan Atlantic University, an MSc from the University of Lagos, and degrees from the Wharton School of Business, Pennsylvania, and University of Chicago, both. Thank you for joining us on this discussion, Damilola Hassan. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here this morning.
Thank you, Damilola. Also on this discussion is Imabong Asema, Team Lead Wealth Advisory, Meristem Wealth Management, a lady whom I call a chemical advisor. So I'm sure we can see the trajectory of our education, having a degree in chemistry from Ahmadu Bello University, and as of today, she's a seasoned wealth advisor with over 10 years experience. She currently provides investment management, relationship management, retirement planning, and advisory services to HNI individuals at Meristem Wealth Management Limited. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation, Ima.
Thank you very much, Babatunde. Thank you for having me.
I hope you bring in some biological and chemical skills into this conversation, so at least we can have both money and the scientific understanding of wealth management.
Of course.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
And so we will be diving into the conversations. I'm sure we are all worried to say, what kind of conversations are these guys going to have on this call today? So our conversations is going to be straight, deep, and critical. So I'm sure a few of us who are married must have sat in our house to say, how do you protect your family from extended family? Like we say, village people wahala, when you are gone. Are they going to push your wife out of the house? Do I have enough money to sustain my family because maybe my wife is a full housewife? Or how do I retire? A lot of us are quite active today. We take a lot of alcohol, smoke, and all of that, and we don't think of incapacitation and our healthcare, because I'm sure once you're retired, your company is no longer paying your HMO. So what's your plan to sustain yourself? All of these conversations and more is what we'll be diving into. So I'm just going to speak to Damilola now. What do you think are the major barriers to such conversations? Why do you think people don't want to have these conversations in our society?
Yeah, Babatunde, thank you very much. So there are so many things. What are even these conversations, if you ask me? I mean, as simple as discussing healthcare complexities, discussing risk, discussing how much money you even have. How often do we as maybe couples discuss our finances with our partners? Planning your estate. There are so many things that ideally we should be talking about, but we over and over again, we find that these things are not addressed, not because people don't think about them, but more of cultural limitations around certain things that you can say, you cannot say. You know, how do you wake up one morning and begin to ask your spouse, sweetheart, if anything happens, if you go on this trip, God forbid, I know you will come back safe, but what if you don't? What is going to happen to maybe the children, or what is going to happen to, you know, ideally, these things we should be comfortable having these conversations, but because of superstitious beliefs, you know, in this part of the world, we believe that once we talk about death, it has strong powers, it will come knocking on our door.
Right.
Sometimes even just the family dynamics of it, you know, you have a seemingly complex family tree, and say 15 children, 3 wives, and you are, say, child number 7. How, from the 3rd wife, for example, how do you begin to ask your father what exactly is going to happen to this and that? You know, do you have any plans? Daddy, do you have a will? Have you written? Do you have a trust? You know, so there are all of these limitations.
Right.
I came across this survey by the CNBC on the women and wealth. It was recently done in March, and they said that about 57 out of the total that they polled ranked personal finances as the most difficult conversation to talk about. Personal finances ranked higher than health, than religion, than politics. So people actually find it easier to have conversations around those other topics than on personal finances. But that's why we're here today. We would address all of these conversations, you know, and hopefully we will all be better off for it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Damilola. I'm sure a lot of, I'll shake the table here. I'm sure a lot of men are logging out now that my personal finance, what do you mean? So, but it's okay. Thank you so much. Ima, I'm worried. Why do these conversations matter? You know, a lot of people say, why do I have to tell you if I have a will or not? Are you planning to kill me? Or wife will be like, why does my husband want to know who the next of kin or who the beneficiary is from my job? I'm sure we've seen a lot of crime videos from some TV shows abroad where a man will kill a woman because of leaving trust and all of that. So that's, I think, is one of the reasons, but I'm sure there's many. So what do you think are the major, why do people don't want to discuss this, and why is this conversation really, really of essence?
Yes, thank you, Babatunde. So, I mean, like Dami has mentioned, one of the major reasons, I mean, is superstition. Then I'll also go to the fact that it's not just between, you find that these conversations don't just have, it's not just between partners or spouses, even between friends. You realize that even, forget being married, people don't discuss their finances with their friends. I mean, even bosom friends that they discuss every other thing with, they discuss their health with them, they discuss their family issues with them, but they do not discuss their finances. And you find that it actually hinders how much information you're exposed to. It hinders the amount of opportunities you get, because the more you have conversations with other individuals, people who you trust, the more you are able to get opportunities, the more you are able to actually get information that helps you to grow your finances. And why, I mean, there are several reasons why these conversations matter, why they're important. One of them is the fact that you don't want your family scrabbling at the end of the day. If you say you really love them, one of the things you want to be doing is ensuring that you make their lives easier when you're no more. You make, even if you're not dead, if you're incapacitated, if you can no longer act on your own, does your family know enough about you? Do they know what you really want to do with your money? Do they know what you really want to do with your health? Something as complicated or as simple, depending on how you put it, as burial. Does your family know where you want to be buried? Does your family know your own family history? So because when you begin to talk about things like this, when you say, oh, what is our family tree like? What's our family history? And those are the things you then pass on to your children. Oh, this is where we came from. So, but those conversations, as simple as what I just mentioned, are the kinds of things that we don't even want to talk about. And those things come up in when you have these conversations. And it helps with accountability. It helps with responsibility. When you talk about your finances and your spouse or your friend, your accountability partner, or whatever the case may be, knows about, oh, this is what you're doing, this is what you plan to do. It helps you to be accountable. It helps you to be able to say, oh, I'll be disciplined about doing this. And then it protects your family assets. I cannot overemphasize this. If your family, if your spouse, your family, let's say you're not even married, if your spouse doesn't know about it, your kids don't know about where your money is, your siblings, people that actually would take care of these assets. If they do not know where they are, how are they going to take care of it? How do they then go and say, okay, when my father died, he had this. If they don't even know where it is, how do they pull it together? How do they ensure that your money doesn't just go to waste, your assets, your real assets don't go to waste? So these are the reasons why it is very, very important to have this conversation and begin to disclose what we need to disclose to the people we need to disclose it to. Some people might say, I don't want to go and tell my, like Gabby mentioned earlier, I don't want to say this to my father, and then it will be like, oh, why is she bringing this up? Is she saying I would die? This is where you then need to then consult people who can speak to him or speak to him through the right channels and things like that. So it is very, very important that we have these conversations.
Right. Thank you so very much, Ima. But I think for me, one thing I've picked from both your conversation and Damilola thus far is superstition is one hell of a problem with us Africans, yeah? Because everybody is worried, and I think it's good to chip in that the next of kin worry is there as well. You know, there's this saying that says, who knows what your next of kin plan is for your life savings, you know? But that's just a joke. It's still one of the things we have to consider. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in. I'm sure so far, the way the discussion is going, some questions are already popping in your heads, and we have our professionals in the chat box to respond to some of your questions, and some of it I will be picking to read and have the panelists discuss this as the time goes on. So it's good if you can just prompt your friends and colleagues to log into this conversation, because we're about to delve into some more critical part of our discussions, and we're happy to have our numbers increase. And we're still streaming on YouTube as well. So if you're on the go, you can join us on YouTube. We're happy to have you on this conversation. Okay, so now, Damilola, I think I want to kind of focus on you now. Discussion around death, healthcare, incapacitation, and estate planning is something people misconceive. I'm sure hardly can you find a man that would want to, and when I say a man now, I mean either male or female, that would want to discuss, oh, these are my plans for my death. However, we've seen some very notable men in Nigeria that will say, oh, 40 years ago, I already bought a plot where I'm going to sleep. I bought lots for my wife, my children, and all of that. So you see, these guys are actually financially or futuristically ready for life and family after they're gone. So I think it will be good for you to educate us further on this little bits of topic. Damilola, it will be good to hear from you.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to quickly do something. Let's do something together, everyone. I'm going to launch a poll. Let's even see where we are. We have about 100 people. Okay, yeah. Over 100 already on this call now. So you would see there's a poll that I'm launching now. So just take a few seconds to answer. I think there are just 3 questions. Let's even feel the pulse of the room. Please confirm if you need help with the polls. Can you see it? If you can see it.
I can see your poll, Damilola.
Let's just even feel the pulse of the room. How many people here have plans detailing their assets, or they have something scribbled in terms of who their beneficiaries are? You know, and this is not to undermine the love that they have for their loved ones. It is just what it is. People love their children, love their spouses, they love their dependents. But when it comes to actually putting pen to paper, you know, doing the work, sitting with a professional, and actually moving the plan that you have somewhere in your head from just planning to execution, we are lethargic. We pull back. Why? Interesting. Yes, I mean,
our polls are rising, guys. Let's feel this. It's becoming really interesting.
Oh,
so I'm going to call you the table shaker, Damilola. You're shaking some tables already.
No, but that's the essence of this topic. This topic is conversations you want to have, But we were being mischievous by inserting the don't, because
And that's why
really,
we have a cross on it.
on one side, you don't want to have these conversations, but on the other side, you actually want to have the conversations. Yes, so I think I'll end the poll now.
Right.
Just see another 5 seconds. Please, if you haven't responded, just quickly respond. I know we won't have everyone on the call respond. Apologies to our viewers on YouTube. I know we're streaming this live. You're unable to participate in this poll, but you will share the results just about now and you would see end poll. Please, I have to end the poll now because of time. Okay, share results. Can we see the results?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so fantastic. About 69% of respondents say that they find it comfortable to discuss financial plans with their partner or family. A few people said never. Do you have a plan detailing your assets and intended beneficiaries? 67% of the people said yes, they do. A few people are asking, do I really need one? And while about just 26% say yes, they have. What have you put in place for your estate? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Power of attorney? None. You have 91% of the respondents not having put in any specific plan in place. So even the people who find it comfortable to discuss financial plans do not have that plan in place. And I'm really glad that you have shared this with us. And that's why this webinar is on. So what are some of these conversations that we don't want to have? Let's start from health, incapacitation. I mean, how often do we sit, to ask ourselves critical questions? And we're not saying for certainty this would happen, but in a situation where something happens, something really drastic happens to your health as an individual, as a family man, as a family woman who loves your spouse, who loves their children, and you know that the future of maybe this children's education is largely dependent on you being healthy and available to keep working. What will happen if you fall ill? For some of us, the question should even be, how would my family even take care of my medical bills? Perhaps your thumbprint is what gives you access into your bank account, or your eyeballs. You have to open your eyes into your bank app.
You need two-factor authentication in today's Nigeria.
Because of, so it's important that we have conversations with professionals to say, if this should happen, I want so and so to happen. And then you'll be guided. For some of us, even if you just take a look at your family history, there's a history of certain illnesses in your family. You should know that I am to take precautions. And I'm not saying that we should not pray or we should not start off by living healthy. But again, take precautions. So if diabetes runs in the family, we know that some of these things are genetic. You should actually have conversations with your spouse to say, if this happens, if I fall ill today and I'm unable to take a decision, you should call my trustees to do this and to do that, and then this will happen. Or I have built an emergency fund. I pray we don't have reasons to touch it, but if any one of us is critically ill, this and this and this will activate this emergency fund. It can even be, someone who needs to be firm, someone who needs to be clear-minded and, in their clear mind, that needs to take a medical decision on your behalf. It may not even be your spouse at that time because of all of the sentiments and the emotions at that point in time. So a power of attorney, a medical power of attorney that you put in place, as simple as that, can help you. So we can go on and on about some of these things, but I think the starting point is you talking about it. Now, the topic of death in itself is something that, nobody, or maybe I should say hardly anyone wants to talk about. But it is a fact of life. Death happens. often than not, people do not know when it will happen. Now, are we saying that we should go around being pessimistic about life in itself? No. In the words of J.F. Kennedy, he said that the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining, because that's actually when you can stand and you can see that the ray of the sun is penetrating through the roof, and then you realize that there's a hole. You don't wait for when it's cloudy and the rain begins to fall and it begins to pour, and then the roof is leaking and you are damaging everything that is beneath that roof. You don't wait for that time, to begin to fix that roof. So that is all what we're talking about. Just simple conversations. If I go on this trip and I don't return, what will happen? Discussing these topics would allow you as an individual, to make your choices, and you are not leaving certain things to other people. So if you have minors as your children, and you and your spouse, you are traveling, for example, God forbid, if you don't come back, what's going to happen to those minors? Who will take responsibility for them? But when you have an estate plan, and you've sat with professionals to handhold you, to help you to confront some of these difficult questions, you are able to put an effective plan in place. And that is not because you anticipate that negative thing happening, but because you are just a planner who would rather, put solutions in place well ahead of time, rather than the situation happening upon you and there's absolutely no plan in place. So that takes me to the issue of estate planning. As simple as writing a will. A will is specifying who is giving what. So the who is that person writing the will. Giving what is specifically what do I have. And then specifying who gets it. So in a will, you don't say, let all my children have this. You have to specify who are your children. So person, so this and that, you have to define it. So those are the things that make up a will. So something as simple as that will go a long way, to help you to put some plan in place. But for some of us, as family dynamics, the complexities around the kind of assets that we hold, or even just the shared nature of the family tree, will not make you just writing a will to be sufficient. So at that point, you probably want to consider setting up a trust. For some of us, we have children who are minors, and you want a situation where their education is uninterrupted, no matter what happens, be it incapacitation, be it death, be it whatever it is. You can put an education trust in place for your children. You set aside funds in that education trust such that, if anything happens, that education trust does not need to go through any other approval or whatever. There's no need of anything going through the hassles of probate for the children, to have their education uninterrupted. We also have the testamentary trust. That is like a combination of a will and a trust. I'm sure that we'll be able to answer specific questions on some of those things that we're talking about. So if you have your questions, please drop them in the chat room and we'll be able to answer. Really, many of these things that we're talking about, they are bespoke. So we look at an individual or a family situation, and we're able to then recommend, this is what we think you should do. Do you have this? Do you have life insurance in place, for example? Do you have a health insurance in place? We ask you some of these questions so that we can advise on what we think it is that you should put in place. But we start by confronting those conversations. That is the starting point. Thank you.
Wow, Damilola, thank you so very, very much. But while you were presenting, I just wore a cap of a 70-year-old man who's, let me not say 70-year-old, say a 60-year-old man who's got about, say 5 years to leave the public service. And yes, this man is on this call. He's made this financial mistake of not getting ready and all of that. He knows his salary, he knows his rank and all, but I'm asking for him, who's on this call now, I can't afford to prioritize medical care plan. How do I start now? Can you just address this real quick in like a minute?
Yes, so all of this start with analyzing your current situation. And there's no better person to tell you the absolute honest truth about your current position than yourself. Over and over again, I have had situations where a client or a prospect will walk up to me and say, okay, yes, so I have it all figured out. In the next 2 years, I'm going to retire, and then I'll have this and do that. I want to be able to, relax and do some other things that I love to do when I'm not working. And then we just share the retirement planning questionnaire, for example. The first set of questions: how old are you? How old are your children? What class are they? What stage of life are they? I've had someone who said they were going to retire in 2 years' time, and then they still had children in what you call GSS, what we used to call GSS2. That's year 8, year 9. And I had to ask, okay, so what schools are they? Fantastic schools. Can you give me a summary of what you pay per session on school fees? They give me. And then I, gross it all up. Okay, so these children have XY number of years to go. So in terms of university education, what are your plans? I hear, okay, it's either the UK or Canada. And then we begin to calculate. And then I ask, do you have any investments in dollars at the moment? Do you earn in dollars? No, actually, I earn in Naira. Okay, so you earn in Naira. You have obligations in a few years' time that will crystallize in dollars or in British pounds. It means that at that point in time, you'll be faced, with the currency risk. Is that not happening now? There are not people who have sent children abroad who did not hedge that exposure by having investments in dollars, even right here in Nigeria, such that the income from such investments is matching, that anticipated obligation, such that when the obligation crystallizes, you are able to meet it. I mean, we can go on and on, but sit and evaluate, where exactly am I now? If I have just very few more years to compulsory retirement, it means that I have to make the most of the number of years I have left. I'll leave the rest to Imabong. She's our retirement planning expert.
Thank you so very much, Damilola. You're actually making me shiver to my shoes, because I think some of the stones you're throwing is actually talking to me, and I'm sure a lot of us on this call are being spoken to, and some questions are dropping in the chat box. Professionals are there to answer your questions, and I'm sure even after this conversation, Damilola and her team are able to answer any question you might have. So if you want them to call you directly, kindly put in your phone number, emails, and seasoned professionals will reach out to you, okay? So now moving on real quick, we're diving into retirement planning. Ima, tell me, how do I plan my retirement?
Thank you, Babatunde. So, much as I would like to start explaining how you plan your retirement, one thing that I would like to start from the beginning, if you check out the polls that Dami just put on the screen, you will see that she said 90% said they didn't have a plan in place. So a lot of time we have this conversation over and over again. Some of these conversations we don't want to have, we've actually had them. And the joker is actually putting pen to paper and actually doing. So we've talked about this, we think about it, but we do nothing about it. So if I can go and which I will do now is tell you how to start planning your retirement. But the important thing you should take away if you take nothing from this session is actually doing. Once you've come to the realization, no matter how early, no matter how late, you need to start doing something about planning your retirement. Just start where you are. So the most important thing I would say with retirement planning is start your retirement plan. I mean, there are statistics that says only about 12% of actual workforce, especially in Nigeria, actually have an active retirement plan. 12% of the workforce of the entire nation. So it means that, and this is not even saying, 12, we're just talking about those in active employment. We're talking about those who are entrepreneurs. We are talking about people who have their own businesses and they don't have an active retirement plan. So what we are saying is once you are under the age of 40, meaning that we consider that your accumulation stage where you are putting together your wealth, you start your career, maybe you start your career, you're lucky, you start at 21 or 23, whenever you start, but you must start planning your retirement the first day, the day you get your first job. That's the ideal situation. We don't see that in practice, but it's the ideal situation. And then let's say, and that's the time we feel like, okay, you don't have as much responsibilities. And then you now get to the stage where you begin to have those responsibilities. Maybe you are developing a family, you're buying a home, and the life of family is beginning to mature. And then we are saying this is the stage where you begin to preserve your wealth. This is the stage where you begin to preserve what you've earned, where you begin to talk about the things that Dami was talking about earlier, which is, I have obligations in the future, in the very near future, in FX. What am I doing to ensure that I earn in that currency? Such that when they are discussing, when you're having headwinds and conversations about, the dollar is 1.8 today, tomorrow is 1.2, it does not concern you. The reason why it does not concern you is because you have those obligations in FX. It means that you must have some of your income and some of your assets in FX, irrespective of what the exchange rate is. You must have assets in that currency which you will be spending. So that's what you do when you are putting together your assets, when you are preserving your assets, when you are planning to what schools will my children go to. And retirement planning and estate planning goes to the nitty-gritty of what school exactly are they going to? What is education inflation in that country? What will it look like in the next 10 years? Those are the kind of conversations and experts will be having with you. And then we plan towards those things. Of course, we don't have a crystal ball, so no one can see exactly what it will be, but we can hedge as much as possible, and then we can plan. They say having no plan at all is the worst mistake you can make. So it's important that you have a plan in place. And then you now get to the stage where you say, you know what, I've put plans in place, I've put my money together. How do I then pass on those monies? Which is what Damilola was talking about when you talk about all the estate plan vehicles you can use. So retirement planning, I would say the first thing you do is to assess where you are, know what you plan to do, know what your earning capacity is. If you need to build an earning capacity in another aspect different from your current employment or currently what you do, you need to begin to take those decisions. If you want to go to school, if you want to further your education, if you want to gain certain skills, everything you need to do. If you've already done all that and you then begin to say, okay, where am I? What exactly do I want to do with my life? And then, like I always say, there is, for every non-financial objective or dream you have, there is a financial implication. So those are the conversations we'll begin to have. What's the financial implication of me wanting to travel in my retirement? What exactly will air tickets cost at that time? What exactly with hotel accommodation, with whatever? So it goes as basic as that. Have I built a social life that I will spend in retirement? Meaning, what would I wake up to every day when I retire? So assuming I'm the person that I've been in career all my life, I'm not a business person, we will not all be. And I want a situation whereby you should create a situation whereby in retirement, you can wake up in the morning and have something to look forward to. So it means you must build a social life. So, I'm a social person, I don't have many friends. Do you belong to a club? Can you play golf? Can you play tennis? Can you play squash? What are you doing to ensure that in retirement you're active? In retirement, you have something to look forward to. Because we say, there's a quote that says, planning towards much to live on and much to live for. So you must have both much to live on and much to live for. What is the much to live for that you have? And then the much to live on. Have you put together your assets? And when we're talking about, we're not talking about, a luxurious living. We're talking about maintaining your pre-retirement life, post-retirement. So have you assessed your risk, which is something very, very important. We need to look at both the risk that would likely crystallize, as well as who are you as a person? What risk are you willing to take? What risk are you able to take? And then when we assess that, we then, okay, these are the kind of assets we can buy, these are the kind of instruments we can invest in. Then we consider all sorts of risks, longevity risk. How long would you live? You cannot tell that, but what happens if you outlive your assets? What happens if your assets outlive you, which is what Dami was talking about earlier. So what will happen to your assets at that time? Inflation, are your assets able, the instruments you have in your portfolio, if you already have investment, are they able to cover inflation? Are they able to give you returns above inflation? So those are the kind of things we'll be talking about when you're doing a retirement and an estate plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ima. The next part we'll be discussing is financial planning. Ima, please walk us through what your understanding of this and what some of the people on this call need to start doing.
Planning
Ima, you're on mute.
because of, okay. Yeah, financial planning is actually a part of retirement planning. It's because of the retirement planning. So, like I said earlier, you need to just first of all sit down and say, you know what do I own? And then you will hear somebody say, but I already know what I own. You have a mental note of what you own. Have you ever put it down together to say, okay, these are my assets, these are the debts I have. I have a mortgage, I have this loan, these are the debts I have. Okay, so based on this, can I renegotiate the debts? Can I pay off some of these debts which I'm paying too much on? Can I quickly close out on those debts so that I can be sure what assets I have? So that is the first stage, to best assess who you are, assess your assets. And then the next step will be assessing your risk. What risk am I able to take? So, I mean, there's the willingness and the ability. So what risk am I able to take? Some people say, no, I can take risk. I want high return. Should they say high risk is high return? But it doesn't necessarily play out like that. So even if you can take those risks, are you at a stage of your life where you should be taking those risks? Those are the things we need to be talking about. Then there is the part of, I'm a very risk-averse person, I can't take those risks. But by the time you sit down with an advisor, those are the things you'll be talking about. Yes, you don't have the, you're not willing to take those risks, but should you be taking those risks? Okay, how best can we structure it in a way that you will take those risks without necessarily being affected because of the returns you'll be getting when you take those risks? Damola mentioned health earlier on, and this is one part that a lot of people miss out on when you're doing a retirement plan. So because you're in paid employment, your company probably has health insurance for you. When you're coming up with a retirement plan on your own, you typically, a lot of times people don't think about that. And then 5 years or 2 years into retirement, you need to go to the hospital. 1 year into retirement, you need to go to the hospital. And they say, here is your bill, sir. And you're wondering, my bill, how? Because you're not used to paying the bill. So those are the kind of things you need to be taken into cognizance. Then you need to set your goals. And in setting your goals, you also be budgeting. That you mentioned earlier that you assess someone and they say, I want to retire in 2 years. It happens more often than you would think. We've had clients that will say, or prospects that will say, I want to retire in 5 years. And by the time you do an analysis of how they want to retire, I want to do this in retirement, and you assess the assets that are going to cover that retirement lifestyle, it can't happen. So we need to say, okay, we need to prolong retirement by 3 years. We need to prolong retirement by 4 years. But if you have never had that conversation, it means that you would say, I want to retire, and then you retire. And then 2, 3 years, 4 years into retirement, you're now back to square one, as if you just started your career and you're wondering, where is all the money I said I put away? How did I spend this money? So this is extremely important that you sit with an advisor that will be able to tell you, okay, this is what you need to do and this is how you need to do it. In everything we have talked about, consistency and discipline cannot be overemphasized. If you're not consistent, even if you have a retirement plan, I mean, there are people that have started up retirement plans and after 1 year, no contribution to the plan, no updating of the plan in line with current realities of their own lifestyle as well as economic realities. And that plan just goes down the drain. If you're not consistent, there is not much that can be done. So, and then even if you were not consistent, what I always say is if you are not consistent, once you realize that I have not been doing this thing I say I will do, you should wake up and then begin to do those things. And then putting a budget in place. This is basic financial planning. It's very, very important that you have a budget. And budget is not just, I have budget for food, I have a budget for things like, charity. How much money will I give away? Because we live in a society where black tax is everything. There will always be people that would collect from you. How much are you budgeting for that? Such that you don't have a situation where you're eating into funds you should be putting in your investment portfolio, funds you should be putting into your retirement portfolio. So your budget is not just a basic budget. Your budget is something that covers everything that you would be doing, every situation, every scenario should put there. While we can, we cannot completely cover everything, but as much as possible to the best of your ability, that would need to be covered as well. And then you need to determine the asset classes. If you cannot determine your asset allocation based on your risk tolerance, you would have issues in terms of will those assets cover what you need to cover in retirement? Those assets cover your lifestyle in retirement. So the kind of assets you will even buy, the kind of investment, the kind of instruments you buy will also be something that you put into your retirement plan. And then because you have a proper retirement plan, things will change. So you will need to be updating that retirement plan. Things have changed with you. You've gotten a promotion. You've started a new business, a new income stream that will need to be put into your retirement plan. That's even the good part. What about if things have turned bad and not as great as they used to be? So you need to then say, okay, things are not as great. I was going to be contributing this to my retirement plan, but I can no longer do this, what I can do. And then you need to take steps to ensure that that changes, or that is, you do better. Basically, that's the overview of what you should be doing for retirement plan.
Awesome.
And
Thank
financial
you
planning.
so much, Ima. You've really nailed it on the head, and I'm thinking again. I'm wearing quite a number of person's hats. I don't earn enough to start financial planning, or rather, I'm an entrepreneur, and I don't have steady income. Sometimes we sell ready to wear. We sell 2 pairs this week. Next week it's a drought. How do you advise someone like me? How do I get started with my financial planning?
So I would say start from where you are. So there is nothing such as a small retirement plan. Your retirement plan is your size. That's just what I would say. So there will be times, like you just mentioned, this business scenario where there are times there is a drought and there's a time the business is booming. So of course, when the plants are you go to harvest when the business is booming. So your financial plan, that's why financial plan is not a one size fits all. So it means that, well, how does your business operate? When is the season of large inflows? So at that point, when we'll be putting together, okay, this is what we need to do when that happens. This is what we need to do when that happens, such that in the time of drought, so to speak, there will be monies you've put away to cover that time. So there is nothing, there are investment vehicles that start as low as 10,000 naira and all that. So everyone has their size. So, and as you grow, like I mentioned, as you grow, you begin to update. So there is, and what you just mentioned about today is a fear that a lot of people have. When they're talking about financial plan and speak to an advisor, this are talking about millionaires and billionaires. No, you have to start where we are. There are several stories I can say here of people that started their careers, started putting together a financial plan at the beginning of their career. Today, they're also top managers, executive managers, and directors where they are. They started from where they are, and they are now here now. But because you've created a culture of having a financial plan, a culture of putting a proper budget in place, a culture of understanding what to do with your investments, when you have small, when you are big, you will be fine with knowing what to do. You already have that information, you know who to go to, you know the kind of instruments to put in place. So there is no such thing as, oh, I don't have enough. There is always enough to put something away. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a question in on the box here. Promise Nwa Obilo is asking, most of the advice is targeted towards retirement age group. Can you give some insights or advice to younger people at the beginning or middle of their career? So I'm going to add to Promise's question. I'm already earning, I'm a 9-to-5 person. I'm already earning my salary and my company is deducting my pension. They're paying their contribution as well. Is that not enough for me to retire with? What do you think, Ima?
So yes, like I said earlier, while the conversation sounds, and this is a myth that, oh, there's a retirement age group. Actually, there is none. You are supposed to have started planning for your retirement the day you get your first job. So I'm actually speaking to those that are beginning of their career. In fact, you are better placed. You are luckier than those who are 5 years to retirement. It means that what you need to be contributing to cover your retirement lifestyle, you have a longer time to plan, meaning that you have smaller amounts to contribute over a longer time. So there is no better time. Actually, you that just got your first job, just started your career, in fact, you are better placed. That's all I would say. So start now. So retirement is not for those at retirement. That is the greatest misconception and the mistake a lot of us make. So no, you should need to start. So the financial planning, which is what I talked about earlier, and then it dovetails into retirement planning. So start putting away money towards your retirement. It's very difficult because you are wondering, retirement is 20 years from now, it's 30 years from now. Why am I saving money? Which is why a lot of people don't have retirement plan account, which is why that statistics of just 12% is there. And I can tell you from experience that if there was no compulsory pension scheme, we won't even have that 12% we're talking about. It's because there's actually compulsory pension scheme. That's why there is some sort of savings towards retirement. But going to your last question, no, so we consider a pension, which is your retirement savings account, like you mentioned, a very critical part of retirement planning. However, it is not sufficient to cover your retirement. And one of the reasons is because an RSA does not consider your individuality, does not consider, oh, Babatunde likes to travel 2 times a year, Babatunde likes to do charity, Babatunde has a dream of setting up an orphanage, Babatunde wants to play golf in retirement. It doesn't cover the golf subscription. It doesn't
I
cover
think you
that
actually have a crystal ball. You're talking my future.
So it
Go
doesn't
ahead.
cover those things. It doesn't cover who you are. So it just takes you into a basket, into a bucket, and say, okay, between the ages of so and so, we expect that this is where you are in your career. We expect that this. So it just gives you a blanket, and then it puts you in a box, which is the best way. I mean, they cannot manage every single RSA differently. But a retirement plan, in addition to your RSA, a retirement plan will help you to say, okay, these extras that my retirement, my pension, that my RSA cannot cover. It then covers those extras so that such that you are living the same type of life you're living pre-retirement, the same type of life you're living when you were in employment or active service. And then it covers that even after retirement. So it's very, very important that you have both. So pension, extremely important. In fact, when we are doing a retirement simulation for you, we'll be asking you questions like, well, how much do you have in your RSA account? What is your monthly contribution to your RSA? Because we expect that you will have that. So with that, and in addition to any other income you have, we then plan towards your retirement. So no, the conversation is actually not for people already in retirement age. It's for those who are just starting their career, as well as those who have, you know what, I've gotten here, it's 5 years, 2 years to my retirement. What should I do now? So yeah. In fact, as we actually plan for people, there are people who have retired and they get lump sum payments. And then we then say, oh, yes, we made the mistake of not giving you a pre-retirement plan. What is your post-retirement plan?
Right. Thank you so much. Segun Hassan, I'm sure you can hear me. Could you please put your question in the Q&A section so I can take it? I see you're raising your hand. So I've got this question. How can I determine the right retirement savings target for my family's need? Damilola, can you please guide us on this?
Okay, I believe this person is trying to ask, based on what they have, right? How they can plan, is it how they can plan for their retirement, you say?
So I'm just asking, I don't know anything. I just have a few money locked in account. I have an income. So what's the best instrument to explore for my retirement savings, apart from my pensions account for the people who have that? And I'm sure quite a number of people don't have that. So what do you advise based on your experience?
Okay, so Ima, I think addressed it earlier when she was speaking, when she talked about understanding where you're going. What is the goal? You set financial goals? So this is what I have now, but in 5 years' time, I want to be able to achieve this and that. In 10 years' time, I want to be able to do this and that. So when you break it down, short, medium, and long-term goals, it makes it easier because, you know, if you imagine you're in your early 30s and you're thinking of retirement, 60, and you have all of these big plans, and then they look like, oh, they're insurmountable. How can I even achieve all of these things? Break it down into smaller goals. What do you have now? So if you can start with as little as 10,000 naira. Setting it aside, put it in a money market mutual fund. I mean, looking at where the rates are in Nigeria now, I know many of us who didn't follow the MPR and the decisions of the Monetary Policy Committee. Many people have been following it, surprisingly, you know, in recent times. And they will tell you that MPR is now at 24.75. Inflation is at over 30. How do I do this and that? I mean, what do you have? If all you have is 10,000 naira every week, then set it aside. You can start with a mutual fund account and put that in. But perhaps you have some lump sum of money, 5 million, 10 million, you know, and you don't have any form of investment at all. I would advise that you speak to a professional, speak to us at Meristem. Why do you need to speak with a professional? Sometimes you just think, okay, no, so I just need to do fixed deposit, put this money there, and that will be it. It could be that in your conversation with the professional, you are having to answer critical questions such as, what is going to be your liquidity needs, even as you invest these funds? Are you able to invest? If you say, no, I want to invest for the next 3 years, do you think you would need money at any point in time between now and the next 3 years? If that's it, or do you want some steady income from this investment periodically? If you say yes to that, then we'll say, okay, you can buy the federal government savings bond that pays you coupons quarterly, you know, and then allows you to earn income no matter how small, you know, at the end of every quarter. But if you say, no, I'm not going to need this money, you can keep it there for the next 3 years. My son will be graduating from college and I want my son to go for maybe masters or whatever. Then the conversation can now be, okay, so do you think that you can change this money to dollars so that you can invest in any of the dollar-denominated instruments so that by the time that obligation crystallizes, you have certain funds in that currency that can help you to hedge. So by and large, the concept of wealth management that we offer in Meristem is to handhold individuals and families from the growth stage, that is, how do I grow my wealth, to the preservation stage, how do I preserve, how do I shield whatever I have built or I am building? How do I hedge against risk? How do I hedge against losses due to due to maybe currency weakness or due to unnecessary exposure to risky investment and all of that? That's the preservation part. And the third leg of wealth management is the transfer of the wealth. So of what use is it if you have gathered, you have accumulated wealth over and over again, and you haven't put in place a simple plan, to ensure that that wealth transfers seamlessly to your loved ones when you're no more. We call that transfer stage speaking from beyond, because it is simply you just trying to ensure that even when you are not there, when you are not physically available, to take certain decisions on behalf of your family, you have documented what you want to happen, and there's no rancor. There's also something that people need to know. If you put in place an efficient estate plan where you are able to transfer your assets seamlessly, you'll be saving your loved ones from what we call the survivor's penalty. The survivor's penalty is simply put, what is the punishment that a survivor who is currently grieving is going to face because they have to take decisions based on the assets that their loved one has left behind. So I break it down. Someone passes and the person didn't write a will, as simple as that. No matter how much money he has in the bank, no matter how long his list of next of kin is, nobody can access that money because the person has to go through a process. The beneficiaries have to go through a process of, accessing the funds. They have to apply for what you call a letter of administration and all of those things. They have to pay taxes. If they're in Lagos State, they have to pay 10% of the value of the asset that the person is leaving behind. So why would you want your loved ones who are grieving your loss, who are grieving your demise, to also be faced with that punishment of having to take care of all of those things, or they don't even have the necessary funds to even begin that process? We've seen a lot of assets lying idle, lying in waste, because even the family cannot even come together, put their acts together to be able to, take this decision. So what we are saying in a nutshell is, for us at Meristem, we are your go-to. We are your one-stop shop. From the growth stage, you're just starting your career, your business, you're just at the point where you need to protect, diversify, hedge, multiple currency investment, whatever stage you are, or you're at that point where you need to begin to plan that transfer, we can handhold you along the way. Just, if you're on this call now, you can take a quick survey. The link is being shared, where that survey just helps us to even get to understand what stage are you. Because like I said, the stage you are currently in is what will determine the kind of advice that you will get. Because really, it is not, you don't walk into a shop and like a dress and say, just give me that dress. It doesn't matter my size, just give it to me. I like the dress, I'll wear it like that. No, it is more of, I wear a size 14, I wear a size 18. Give me a dress that is my size. So please take the survey. We also have our questionnaires. There's a link that would also be shared. You can just start. It's not just about planning, saying, get started. Or just maybe there's someone there that you would like to take this decision, but you do not know how to approach the person. You do not know how to start the conversation. Leave that work to us. Leave the difficult job of having that conversation. Leave it to us. Share the contact details of that person, and we will help you to, reach out and broach this topic delicately with a lot of maturity and professionalism attached to it, and you will be better off for it. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so very much, Dami. This season experience is showing here. And I'm sure you can reach the Meristem trustee team via trustees@meristem.com. Send them an email or leave your number. A team member is going to call you right after this conversation. Now, Ima, I think I've left you for quite some minutes. I have a question. Yeah? How do I determine my financial goal and priority? I'm just a regular person who's mid-level at my company, or I'm a good developer that's been rolling houses out. I'm selling. How do I determine my financial goal and priority?
So I would say the trick is to look at it like a financial goal. The trick is to look at it as, what are my personal goals and objectives? What do I want to do as Imabong? What is my dream? No matter how lofty. First of all, write down the lofty. You can then prune down later. So you should not look at it as a financial goal. First of all, look at, what do I want to do? Like I was talking about earlier, I want to travel, I want to save money, I want my kids to go to this school, I want to cater to my aged parents, I want I want to buy a house for my mom or my parents, whatever those goals are. Don't look at them from the financial aspect, look at them non-financial first. Once you put down those goals, then you begin to ask yourself questions like, how much will I need to do this? Now, you might not have all the information regarding how much each of these things will cost, which is why sitting with an expert is important. So at that point, that's when you can now draw up your financial goals. So start from the non-financial. Don't consider the money. Consider what your dreams, what you plan to do, what your plans, what your objectives, what your goals are. And then it even helps you to see if those goals are reasonable. Because once you've written everything you want to do, no matter how lofty, just write it down. Then you now ask yourself, okay, now that I've said I want to do all these grand things, how much do I have now? How much do I earn now? Then how much would I earn in the future? Once you begin to look at, okay, so what is my income? Then you can now say, okay, so I've put my goals together. I've then seen how much it will cost me to achieve those objectives. Then I've now seen how much I earn. Okay, it means that from this, I can see that, oh, this my income cannot cover this my dreams. What can I do to be able to have income to cover this my dreams, this my objectives? Then you begin to say, okay, do I have all the skill sets I need? What do I need to do to grow in my career? What are the additional things I need to do? Okay, this is how my business is now. What are the steps I can take to scale my business? What are the steps I can do to expand my business? What are the new ideas I can put in place to ensure that I have additional income? So those are the things you begin to think about. But like I said earlier, thinking about these things on your own can become overwhelming. It can become, I can't do this. And which is what we always find which is the doing we're talking about earlier. So most times when you've had a session like this, or when you've spoken about, or when it comes to mind, you then think about all the things you need to do, and you're like, this thing is too much. And then we bury our heads in the sand and forget about it and just assume that, oh, it will play out, life will happen, I'll be fine, I'll be all right. And that's why we then realize, at some point, you then realize that, you know what, this thing is not fine. But sometimes it's already towards the end when you need to start enjoying from those plans you would have put in place. So it's important that you start doing down those lofty dreams and ideas.
Ima, thank you so very much. We're pressed for time, but I have one more question for you. My question is from the chat box. An anonymous attendee is asking, can financial planning and retirement planning go side by side for 9-to-5 worker, or is it advisable to go for one of the planning, maybe due to financial capability? This question is, I think, two-ended. And finally, my question for you. You have said all these beautiful things. How do I get someone to handhold me? Who at Meristem Wealth do I talk to? How, I need help. I need help. How can you help me as Meristem Wealth Management?
So I would say, depending on your stage of life, you can start from financial planning. Depending on your stage of life you're earning. So you can start from financial planning, which is just basically you deciding what you want to do. So you see, these goals we're talking about, they're not static, they will change, you know. So start from putting away something for yourself, start from putting away something for your family. If you have kids, I would say open accounts in their name, start putting away something small for them, as well as something for yourself. And as you grow in your career, in your earnings, in your business, whatever the case, you can then update that plan. So yes, depending on how much you earn, financial and retirement planning can go side by side. I would say do both irrespective, but in reality, I would say start from financial planning. If you then begin to earn more, have a retirement plan and a financial, because it's very, very important that you separate your retirement plan account from any other investments you have, such that you know that as far as I'm concerned, this retirement, this is for my retirement, nothing touches this, nothing goes to this. Then your last question was, who do you speak to in Meristem? If you could fill the survey, I think there's a survey link that was dropped in the box. You can also download our app called Wealth Body by Meristem. You just go to your app store, or both for iOS and for Android. It's called Wealth Body by Meristem. They will leave the link in the chat box as well. You can download that app. Once you download Wealth Body app, someone will contact you to say, oh, you downloaded that app, how would you? And then you don't even need anybody really. If you download the Wealth Body app, there are several savings and investments tabs you could use there and options. And once you do that, you can begin to save on your own. But there will always be someone from Meristem. Once you link, give us your name. You can drop that in the chat box as well, your name, your phone number, how to reach you, and someone will definitely reach out to you to say, okay, let's start this conversation.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So I see Meristem is digital compliant. Thank you so very much for this. Awesome to note. In 1 minute, Damilola, before we wrap up, I have one question for you. We're short for time. What are the difference between a will and trust, and which is more suitable for my situation? So use a 40-year-old man in a 9-to-5 job as your specimen on this response, please.
Okay, so there are pros and cons to each of the options that you've mentioned, having a will, having a trust. A will is a very simple document that you put in place. It's a simple way to get started on your estate planning journey, to just say, okay, this is the list of what I have in terms of assets. I'm able to divide what I have in a fair and equitable manner, you know, to XYZ beneficiaries, you know, and they can get it, blah, blah, blah. So you're able to state that you have the assets that you can easily divide and split up amongst your beneficiaries, and you can keep it simple. So a will can be suitable for you. But if you know, because, you know, I said earlier that you are the one key person that can be fully objective and truthful to yourself. Even if every other person is going to lie to you, you shouldn't lie to yourself. A will can be contested, and that's the advantage that a trust has over a will. So you should ask yourself, what is the nature of my family? What is the structure of my family? So if you are a family with a bit of a complex, so you may be 40-year-old, but you have children from 3 different women, you're not married to any one of them, they're baby mamas and all of that. It's a no judgment zone. I mean, that is life. You have to deal your cards as they come to you. So your situation is very different from someone who probably just has a wife and they have 2 children and it's all just very simple. So if your will can be contested, or if you have a complex family tree, then, and you have assets in excess of 100 million, I would say that you explore, you know, setting up a living trust, or setting up, it could even be a testamentary trust. So a trust is you putting together the assets that you have that are in your name and transferring them to a corporate trustee to hold primarily on your behalf. But using a trust deed, which is a legal document, you have specified what they should do to those assets if you are no more, or should you become incapacitated. So while you are living, a trust takes effect. So if anybody wants to contest a trust, they have to prove that, I mean, they started contesting it even while you were alive. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So
Right.
long and short, a will can be contested because it takes place, it is read after the person has passed. And so there can be contentions about the sanity of the person or misconceptions about, no, this is not what he intended to do. It was cajoled, it was influenced. But if you know that you don't have anything at all and you just want to get started, you don't want to think of of a complex way around it, you can even just start with a will. Like they say in the Pigeon Palace, at all, nine bad pass, at least start and get something going. Then you can always move it up as your assets increase or as things change, because like we said earlier, there's nothing static. Things change, situations change. Let me quickly give this example. I had a prospect several years back. You know, we got talking. This man was in his early 60s. He had only just retired at the time. And he said, no, my family is a very simple family. I have 3 children. My 3 children, they will divide what I have nicely amongst themselves. There will be no fighting. There will be no rancor. You know, and then he went on and said everything is fine. In fact, I'm going to call my children and tell them this and this and this are the things I have. You take this, you will take that. That's how I'm going to put it in my will. And I'm sure there's no problem. There will be no problem. A year after, this person shows up at our office to say there's a bit of problem. What happened? He has a very special house, special because that was the first house he built when he was just making money. So he was sentimentally attached to the house. He built that house in Ikeja. And to him, that house was worth a whole lot because of the sentiment attached to it. He has another house on the island, somewhere in VI Extension, you know, one of these nice estates, an apartment. And he felt, okay, this house in Ikeja makes more sense because it's a more special house. Told his firstborn, I'll give you this house in Ikeja. And he gives the younger one the house in VI Extension. And then the third one, I can't remember what he gave the third one. He was just telling them. And then later on, the firstborn came back to him to say, what was my offense? What did I do to you? You're trying to give me your house in Ikeja. When you left, everybody knows that in VI, you earn a lot more in terms of rent. If I'm going to sell that apartment in Victoria Island Extension, I'm going to make XYZ amount of money. And he was shocked. He was alive. So just imagine. So the reason he came back to the office to discuss with us was because he realized that if he had done this and he passed, his children would have trouble. You know, one would be unhappy with him and they could fight. So long and short, it's important that you seek advice from professionals. We are professionals over here at Meristem. We've dealt with several cases. We have years of experience packed into the team, and we will be able to, you know, unfold clients along the way. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Damilola. I think you've captured it all. Come to Meristem, let's grow your wealth. And we were short for time. In conclusion, I think this conversation has given us clarity to how we can get control of our wealth, start making proactive planning, reduce our stress because there are legion of professionals within Meristem you can talk to, enhance your relationship by meeting people here. We would guide you into it and your long-term financial security. So I think based off this, our team would be expecting your concerns, your setups, all of it as you have to come to Meristem. And as my last word would say, from a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, that says, live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. Let's start planning our lives as if it was going to end already. Thank you so much for joining this call. And I thank you, Ima and Damilola, for educating us on this call. Our team will still remain on the chat if you have more questions and you need clarity. In the next 5 minutes, our team will still be online to attend to all your concerns. Thank you so very much for joining, and we'll be signing off from here. Thank you and have a good day ahead. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
everyone
you,
for joining
Damilola.
me.
Bye.
Yeah, and just to quickly mention for the women on this call, the month of March is not over, so our discount is still on, 50% discount on all our estate planning services. You can just say hello, and if you want more information on the discount, for women alone, we are still celebrating the International Women's Day, which became International Women's Month. So until March 31st, we have that discount available to the women who want to plan their estate. You want to write your will, it's 50% off the fees. You want to set up a trust, it's 50% off the sign-on fees.
What if I'm submitting the form on behalf of my wife, Damilola?
We will reply our email.
Thank you so very much. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
All right, then.
Fish up the way to go, the top. You've come this far.
Your story doesn't have to end with you. As a matter of fact, it can continue into the next generation and the generation after that. After all, you've worked hard to get to where you are. Why should your wealth end with you? Let your story continue.
Meristem, let's grow wealth for you.
From taking their first breath, saying their first words, to taking their first steps, life is a journey. The journey from using a pencil to a pen, from kindergarten to college, and from chalkboard to boardroom. At Meristem, we can make that journey easy for you with our Meristem Education Trust, which allows you to set up a dedicated trust account for your children's education. With our Meristem Education Trust, you can rest assured knowing that neither death nor incapacitation can hamper your children's education. To get started, kindly call us on 0700 Meristem or send us an email at trustees@meristemng.com.
The fear of the future and its uncertainties puts a lot of pressure on people. Pressure of safeguarding their assets and caring for their loved ones. What happens to your hard-earned assets in your absence? How do you protect your loved ones from extended family wahala when you're gone? I'm sure you've considered writing a will, but you're reluctant because you think it's a complex process. Well, did you know that in the time it took me to make this coffee, you can write a will? Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet very possible. We believe that nothing should hinder you from living a good life behind for those you love most. With Meristem Simple Will, you can write a will that protects your assets and provides for your loved ones from the comfort of your home. All you need is an internet-enabled device. To get started, visit meristemtrustees.com/simple-will. At Meristem Trustees Limited, we are committed to ensuring your legacy lives on.
Fish up the way to go, the top. You've come this far.
Your story doesn't have to end with you. As a matter of fact, it can continue into the next generation.